say you're live.
Who?
It didn't say that you're live.
It did. Okay, tell you. The mic, check the master mic, please. Okay. Right.
السلام عليكم.
الله السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Tonight's lesson we'll be continuing explanation of اللؤلؤ والمرجان فيما اتفق عليه الشيخان. Obviously we're still in Kitab al-Hajj, coming up on the end of, or close to the end of volume 1 of the 2 volume English translation. Please don't forget about this month's coming lecture. That's the last Thursday, the 28th at 9:30 p.m. We'll be discussing part 2 of mortgages, purchasing a home with a traditional or orthodox or untraditional, non-traditional mortgage, and also bi'idhnillahi ta'ala giving you the necessary tools to understand how to navigate through the rest of the financial or economic dealings, such as a student loan, such as any other thing that you may need to purchase or rent, or it's leased to you, a boat, a truck, a shipping truck, medical supplies, anything else that you need, kitchen supplies, ovens, different things in your halal restaurant that you're trying to start off by your entrepreneurship, making halal dollar for yourself to feed your family, etc. That's going to be part 2, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Part 1, we laid down the foundation of work. And part 2, we started already on the first part. We're going to go more into the second part on the actual fatwa of the modern day ulama regarding this issue. Those who said it's lawful, what conditions they placed on that fatwa that it's lawful to purchase a house with a traditional mortgage, and those who said that it's unlawful, and why it's unlawful, etc. So if you're interested in that, or if you know someone who is, a family member, etc., it's something that you definitely wouldn't hurt you to check out. Alright. So tonight's lesson, we've reached chapter number 40. Nobody's chapter heading says, Babu استحباب استلام الركنين اليمانيين في الطواف دون الركنين الآخرين. حديث ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال ما تركت استلام هذين الركنين في شدة ولا رخاء منذ رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يستلمهما. حديث ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما عن أبي الشعثاء أنه قال من يتقي شيئا من البيت، وكان معاوية يستلم الأركان، فقال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما إنه لا يستلم هذان الركنان. Chapter 40 says the recommendation, the preference, something good for your hajj, your umrah, your tawaf, of touching the 2 corners which are towards Yemen during the tawaf, and not to touch the other 2 corners. So obviously the Kaaba having 4 corners, basic geometry, right? 4 corners. A cube or square. Not 6, not 8, not 12, etc. 4, right? Not 3, 4. So 2 of those corners are given the name and the title Al-Yemaniyan. Al-Yemani, the Yemeni corner. And there are 2 other corners which we haven't got into discussing their names and their titles just yet. So the chapter heading states that it's not obligatory, it's not a condition of a valid tawaf, a valid hajj umrah, but it's preferred. And it's recommended to touch 2 out of the 4 corners of the sacred Kaaba. That's what the chapter heading is discussing. One of the ways of polishing your ibadah. You've already forged your ibadah by learning the shurut before you got to Mecca. What I have to do before my tawaf, before my hajj and or my umrah, before, ahead of time, the shurut. And you've already forged, you've established, you've laid down the groundwork of your ibadah by learning the arkan, the necessary pieces of their ibadah. They have to be there. The mandatory bones of the skeleton, the beams in the structure. And if one of those beams is missing, if one of those bones is missing, if one of those pillars is missing, structure will topple down upon you. Your ibadah will be of no use, period. Waste of time, waste of money, heartbreak, etc. You've learned that before you got to Mecca. And then you've also learned the wajibat, the things that I have to do during my hajj or my umrah or my tawaf. And if I forgot, then it's something else that I can do to fix that, to repair that. But it's something which is mandatory, but it's not an actual structural piece like your rukn. Now, after you've forged your steel blade, now you want to sharpen it. You want to polish it. You want to sign it. You want to decorate it. You want to make it beautiful and pleasing to the eye. And that is by doing the recommended acts. Learning the recommended acts. Learning that which is mustahab. If I have the chance to do it, it's not too crowded, I'll do it. If I'm feeling in good spirits, I'll do it. Too crowded, not feeling that well, bus is going to leave soon, I'm running out of time, different story, right? Whoever Allah was good for, He gives them understanding of the deen. Al-fiqh fi deen. So from those recommended acts is what we previously mentioned. 2 hadiths mentioned in the chapter. The first reported by Ibn Umar, and the second reported by Abu Sha'tha via Abdullah ibn Abbas. Okay, so 797 narrated Ibn Umar, I've never missed the touching of these 2 corners, both in the presence and the absence of crowds, since I saw the Prophet touching them. 798 narrated Abu Sha'tha, who keeps away from some portion of the Kaaba. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, who used to touch the 4 corners of the Kaaba. So Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said to him, these 2 corners are not to be touched. So nothing here from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly. But we have a report and a narration of the Prophet's actions from Ibn Umar. From the time that I saw the Prophet sallallahu touching these 2 corners, Ibn Umar said, I stuck to the sunnah. I never left it off. I never abandoned it. Mundu, right? The lugha was mundu. What word is that? It's the i'rab of that. It's the translation of that. What are the vowel marks that want to come after that? Mundu, right? So since I saw the Prophet doing it, I followed that sunnah. And the second narration is with regards to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, Amir al-Mu'mineen, touching all 4 corners, and Abdullah ibn Abbas disagreeing with him and criticizing him and advising him is that only 2 corners are to be touched. So both hadiths are clear that only 2 are to be touched and not 4. All right. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, فالركنان اليمانيان هما الركن الأسود والركن اليماني وإنما قيل لهما اليمانيان للتغليب كما قيل في الأب والأم الأبوان وفي الشمس والقمر القمران وفي أبي بكر وعمر رضي الله عنهم العمران وفي الماء والتمر الأسودان ونظائره مشهورة. As far as the two Yemeni corners, the number one, it is the black stone, and two, the actual Yemeni corner. The black stone and the actual Yemeni corner. And the only reason why they're called the Yemeni corners, al-Yamaniyan muthanna lit-taghlib, is that one name or one title dominates both of them. And we just call them both the same, which is well known in the Arabic language. The two parents are often called al-Abawan, even though there's only one father and mother. The sun and the moon, he says, are called al-Qamaran, the two moons. Meaning it's only one moon, the moon and the sun. You just call them what? The two suns, or the two moons, excuse me. Abu Bakr and Umar are called the two Umars, even though there's only one of them. The two black things, meaning dates and water. The two staple pieces of the basic bare necessities of the Arabian diet. The diet of the Arabs in the peninsula. The basic staple is water and dates. The dates oftentimes were black. Some dates brown, some dates red, some dates yellow, but ajwa and other dates were black. Water obviously isn't black, you shouldn't be drinking black water, but they call both of them what? The two black things. Lit-taghlib, right? Wahakadha. So that's why they're called al-Yamaniyan. Both corners are not Yemeni. Only one of them is Yemeni, and the other one is the actual black stone. وَالْيَمَانِيَانِ بِتَخْفِيفِ الْيَاءِ هذه اللغة الفصيحة المجهورة وحكى سيبويه والجوهري وغيرهما فيها لغة أخرى بالتشديد فمن خفف قال هذه نسبة إلى اليمن فالألف عوض عن إحدى ياء النسب فتبقى الياء الأخرى مخففة ولو شددناها لكان جمع بين العوض والمعوض وذلك ممتنع ومن شدد قال إلى آخره. And then he goes on to say how it's supposed to be pronounced, Yemeni or other than that. Moving forward. Then he says here, قوله يمسح فالمعرض يستلم وسبق بيان الاستلام واعلم أن للبيت أربعة أركان الركن الأسود والركن اليماني ويقال لهما اليمانيان كما سبق وأما الركنان الآخران فيقال لهما الشاميان فالركن الأسود فيه فضيلتان أحدهما أو إحداهما كونه على قواعد إبراهيم صلى الله عليه وسلم والثانية كونه فيه الحجر الأسود. Then he speaks on the other two corners, which are called the Shami corners. The Shami corners. The Syrian corners. As far as the Yemeni corners, or the Yemeni corner, or he says the black stone has two virtues. Virtue one is that it's one of the original foundations of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the second, obviously, it containing the sacred black stone. وأما اليماني ففيه فضيلة واحدة ويكون على قواعد إبراهيم. As far as the actual Yemeni corner, then it has one virtue, one good thing about it, whereas it's upon the original foundation of Ibrahim as well. وأما ركنان الآخران فليس فيهما شيء من هاتين الفضيلتين فلهذا خص الحجر الأسود بشيئين الاستلام والتقبيل للفضيلتين وأما اليماني فيستلمه ولا يقبله لأن فيه فضيلة واحدة. As far as the Yemeni corner, once more, it only has one virtue. And the remaining two corners have nothing from these two virtues. And this is why the corner with the black stone is to be touched and kissed for those two virtues. And as far as the Yemeni corner, it's only supposed to be and not kissed because it doesn't have the waqila. وأما الركنان الآخران فلا يقبلان ولا يستلمان والله أعلم. The other two corners are not to be touched nor kissed. وقد أجمعت الأمة والاستحباب استلام الركنين اليمانيين واتفق الجماهير على أنه لا يمسح الركنين الآخرين واستحبه بعض السلف وممن كان يقول باستلامهما الحسن والحسين ابن علي وابن الزبير وجابر بن عبد الله وأنس بن مالك وعروة بن الزبير وأبو الشعثاء جابر بن زيد رضي الله عنهم. قال القاضي أبو الطيب أجمعت أئمة الأمصار والفقهاء على أنهما لا يستلمان. قال وإنما كان فيه خلاف لبعض الصحابة والتابعين وانقرض الخلاف وأجمعوا على أنهما لا يستلمان والله أعلم. He says, as far as the remaining two corners, then they are not to be touched nor kissed. Clear. Listen to this now. I'm going to get a little technical. He says, and the Ummah, they unanimously agree that the two Yemeni corners should be touched. That's ijma. And most of them say is that they are the only corners to be touched, without the remaining two corners. Even though some of the Salaf did so. Some of the pious predecessors what? Did so. So before we move forward, with regards to studying fiqh and hadith and sharh, whatever the case may be, obviously you see Nawawi from the 6th century, different madhab, different orientation, people accept him, love him, clearly use the word what? Salaf. So mentioning the word or quoting from them, respecting them, trying to follow them, isn't something which is made up. It's not something from Ibn Taymiyyah. No, he was what? Before Ibn Taymiyyah, let alone Ibn Abdul Wahhab, let alone Bin Baz, Albani, Uthaymeen, Saudi Arabia, etc. So no self-respecting alim or self-respecting talib al-ilm is going to go that far and say the usage of the word, mentioning of the word, quoting of them is something which is made up to divide and split the ummah and destroy the caliphate, as many ignorant people have said, unfortunately. Now, calling yourself Salafi, Salafiyah, the Salafis, so on and so forth, that's what? Further discussion. But the foundation of the term of the word is what? And it's even before Nawawi, way before him. But we're just reading from someone that people accept. So if how many ignorant people, they'll go on a total tirade, blah, 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 and then they'll say, no, we what? No, we. Obviously, that's a problem. That's number one. Number two, most of the ulama say they should not be touched, even though he says some of the Salaf did so, such as Hassan and Hussein, the sons of Ali, radiallahu anhuma, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Jabir ibn Abdullah, Anas ibn Malik, Umar ibn Zubayr, and others from the Tabi'een. So it's not just one or two. It's what? A few. All right? Then he says, one of the previous commentators of Al-Qayyid, he says, is that the Imma al-Amsar, the Imams of the cities, meaning Iraq, Sham, Haramain, Yemen, kada, the main fuqaha, they agree is that they should not be touched. And some of the Sahaba differed back in the day. And then that khilaf became extinct. And the Ummah then what? Made ijma' is that only two corners are to be touched. So obviously these are Masail Usuliyah, as we mentioned, I think last week, the week before last, with regards to Masail al-Ijma'. What is ijma'? What is ittifaq? This Imam is mutasahil fi naql al-Ijma'. And from that is, can ijma' become, or can it be new after there was khilaf? Can the khilaf become extinct? And if it does become extinct, if one comes along and sticks to the old ancient khilaf, is he condemned and blamed? Understand? There was khilaf, the khilaf became extinct in qarada, it's over. The fuqaha, starting in the 5th century, unanimously agreed, 6th, 7th, on up. Someone comes in the 9th century, says, no, I still what? I still see that it's permissible or it's impermissible, etc., etc. Can someone come along and say, Anta mukhalifun lil ijma'? You are now opposing the consensus of the people of knowledge of the fuqaha. That's a very, very important issue with regards to ijma' becoming extinct with regards to khilaf becoming extinct, etc., vice versa, right? Okay? And there are many, many different issues with regards to this. A simple issue of this, mathalan, is the beard. You'll find people, they'll come along and they'll say growing the beard is recommended. It's not that the beard can be trimmed. It doesn't have to be left alone, so on and so forth. All the scholars agree that it's only recommended, etc., etc., etc. One may say this, mathalan. All madhabs agree, mathalan. But you'll find a Salaf al-Salih, none of them differing on the fact that the beard is not to be touched, meaning shaven. So there's ijma' of them, but now there is khilaf. That's a problem. Alright? Mathalan. Okay? Right, moving forward. He says, and they agree, is that those two corners are not to be touched. And as I said, that's a mas'ala usuliyah. Moving forward. He says here, خير إن شاء الله. And Hadith 797 is a virtue of Abdullah ibn Abbas, of Abdullah ibn Umar. Ibn Umar was well known for following the Sunnah, strictly sticking to the Sunnah, having a great deal of love and passion for the Sunnah, and not feeling or worrying about what other people thought or felt about it. And there were even some points in which some scholars, some people of the past criticized some of the actions of Abdullah ibn Umar, saying that the Prophet ﷺ did these things, just natural things, not ibadah, such as where the Prophet would relieve himself, things like this. Or certain things where the Prophet would rest at. Or other things in which some scholars say that only Ibn Umar did, such as every time he returned back to Medina, he would visit the Prophet's grave in the Prophet's masjid, mathalan. وهكذا. Moving forward. Hadith 797 also shows us is that one should stick to the Sunnah until proven otherwise. Until it becomes clear to you not to do it, or there's different views, stick to what you see. Stick to what you've learned. Stick to what you've heard. Hadith 798 shows us the virtue of the Sahaba. The virtue of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas was not scared or afraid to speak what he thought and believed and felt was the truth to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. And it also goes to show us advising, enjoining the good, forbidding the evil, correcting something without shaming someone, as has become a sunnah today. People shame people, humiliate people, slander people, attack people openly, publicly, and then they say we're enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. It's rad al-mukhalif, or jarh ta'dil, or we're giving the brother advice. It's unfortunate. And as you said many years ago, you should read the book of Hafid bin Rajab, the difference between giving advice and shaming, in English, let alone in Arabic. Al-farqu bayna al-nasihati wa ta'yir. It's a must read. And there are many, many other must reads as well with regards to the mass spread dawah confusion based upon internet refutations, internet advices, internet bayans, internet free myself, I'm free from you, I'm free from you, I'm free from you, I'm free from this one, which is oftentimes, and if not most cases, shaming and shameful. May Allah Azza wa Jalla help us all. Khairan inshallah. Alright, we'll stop here. We'll try to leave some time for some questions. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And Allah surely knows best. Time for the adhan as well.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Ahlan bik.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول أن محمدا رسول الله